everyone. Today we're going to discuss communicating with a resistant parent. If you're part of the sandwich generation, a lot of us are experiencing this, where you try to bring up a conversation with an aging parent that you're a little nervous about, and they just kind of fluff off the conversation. They either don't want to have it, they say they're fine, they're reluctant to receiving your help, they're reluctant to continuing the conversation, and so you kind of just retreat back into yourself and either ignore it or just try to accommodate whatever they're telling you they want to do, and you're not really sure how better to move forward, and your concern is there's going to be a crisis. So today I want to discuss with you 4 tips on communicating with a reluctant senior so that you have a little bit of peace of mind that you've done everything you can to keep them safe and healthy. So the first tip is for those that have dementia. It's double-edged. On one hand, if the conversation goes really poorly and something didn't work, tomorrow's a new day. They're not harboring any resentment toward you, and you can start with a clean slate. On the other hand, I'm likely guaranteeing that the first couple conversations are going to go poorly, but you'll build up progress from those conversations and eventually get somewhere. With dementia, you're not able to build up progress because, again, it's a clean slate every time. So you're going to have to figure out who they instinctually gravitate to and trust. And so once you have that correct environment or mouthpiece in place, then every day that's easily something you can replicate. But without that, you're going to be kind of starting from square one each time. And so don't lose hope. Just keep trying to attack it from a different angle in terms of who do they want to hear this information from? Who do they naturally trust? Don't take any offense if it's not you. Find out if that person's a doctor, a lawyer, a friend, a spouse, whoever it is, and work with that person to get them the resources they need to achieve a healthy and safe life. My second tip is, if your parent isn't suffering from a dementia, but they're just kind of driving you crazy, make sure they know it. Now, do it in a kind way, but I think it's crazy to be losing sleep at night if it's a simple solution as you're worried about them falling and they're simply not wearing like the emergency pendant. And it affects you in so many different ways. It affects you at work, it affects your marriage, it affects your attitude towards your kids. So instead of letting this go on, simply be honest with them that, hey, your decision not to create a safe environment at home, which can be simply done by wearing an emergency pendant, is keeping me up at night. So this isn't about you now, it actually is about me. And go to them saying, help me help you, because actually, in a way, you're asking for help, which empowers the senior. And that's what any parent wants to hear. They want to hear that they're useful, that they're part of your lives, that you're coming to them for help. So even if it's a situation where they're in a way the problem, they're in a position to help you. So go to them and be honest. Don't just continue to accommodate an unhealthy situation because it seems easy in the moment, because it's really just going to snowball. And at first it's going to be the one thing, but you're just going to compound it by continuing that behavior. So just try to nip it right from the beginning and be honest. The third tip is to come from the same place. So what do I mean by that? A lot of times you and the parent have the same goal, but your language doesn't sound that way. So they're saying, I don't want to be stripped of my independence, I don't want to end up in a home. And you're saying, I want you to move to assisted living because that's safe for you. Those sound like different things, but they're actually the same thing. You're both saying, I want to age gracefully and not end up in a home. So you need to communicate with the senior in a way that they understand and that sounds familiar to them. So when I work with seniors, if they say, I don't want to end up in a home, I don't want to move, I say, oh my gosh, I agree. I definitely don't want you to end up in a home. They're expensive. They're a hospital environment. To any extent we can keep you out of there indefinitely is perfect. So let's figure out how to accomplish that. What would you be open to do to avoid that? And let them have a say in what they're willing to do. My fourth tip is to stop working on assumptions. This is something I work with clients all the time and why they gravitate toward me. The sandwich generation is hearing from the parent, I can't afford it. And then that just stops the conversation right there. And maybe it's not so much about money, it's about their perception of what care means and what the options are. But there's something at the root of their resistance to change. And the problem is the kids aren't really digging deep enough to figure out what that root is. They're just taking it at face value. So let's just use money as an example. And the senior says, I can't afford it. Well, when I work with the family, I'm saying, what are we basing that on? And oftentimes I'm hearing, well, mom lives on her Social Security and pension, and that comes out to $4,000 a month. And assisted living, as far as we know, is $6,000 a month. Okay, so there's a solution to that. You are working off of just one piece of your overall net worth, just the income. You're not looking into any kind of community resources. You're not looking into the entire family situation. You're not looking into the value of the home, the overall net worth. You're not looking at longevity. It was really great that that senior was just living on income when they started retirement and they had a really long horizon ahead of them. But with health, given what it is, maybe at best case, we're talking about another 10 years of longevity, which means we don't just have to be living on income. We can tap into some of the other assets. And a transition would potentially mean some of those assets are now freed up to be spent, like the home. And so for a lot of people, as obvious as what I just said sounds, they haven't given that thought because they haven't even scratched at the surface of what the senior is really saying to them when they say, I can't afford it. So really dive in to understand, what do they mean by that? Where is that idea coming from? Same with their perception of care. When they say, I'm not moving, I'm not going to the home, what are they thinking of? What images are conjuring up in their head? Have they actually ever gone on a tour of assisted living? Do they know anybody currently that's living in assisted living? Are they thinking of Aunt Mabel that went to a skilled care facility 50 years ago, which is so unlike what you're describing and thinking of? So make sure you're both envisioning the same end result, and take them along so that they can be educated on it as well. And it's not just you seeing the facilities and the options for them. My final thought is, potentially the senior has given this a lot of thought. It's not a knee-jerk reaction response. They don't want any help because they feel like whatever you're proposing is going to give them a watered-down existence compared to what they have now. And that they understand the consequences of their decisions maybe mean just a year more of life, but living it their way, versus 5 more years of life living it your way. That's actually their decision to make. They're not our children that need to be raised. They're adults, and they have a different expectation of what they want their life to be than maybe we do. So we need to hear that, we need to absorb it, and we need to come up with basically a plan of action for crisis. So that would be my advice to you on how to stay sane in that situation and to also respect the choices of seniors. So with that said, I'm always here as a helpful resource to be that conversation for you guys if that's where you feel like you're standing, and to be kind of just an advocate for the senior or the family in expressing your opinion and feelings on that. You can always schedule a free consultation with me at powwowllc.com. I hope to hear from you soon, and definitely check out next week for my next episode. See you then, guys. Bye.